guys, thank you all for joining and thank you for the lecture. It will be very interesting. So without further ado, I do want to invite our first lecturer, Ran Geva. He's the CEO at Webiz and Lunar Cyber to talk about the finding threat signal before the breach occurred. Very interesting. Ran.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can
Yeah,
see, we can hear you,
hear
and
and
you have the
see.
control on the presentation.
Slide. Okay, it works. So a bit about me. I'm the founder and CEO of Webs.io, the company behind Lunar. Lunar is an open breach monitoring platform. We created Lunar to protect everyone, every company, for free. We're the only solution that can help any company provide enterprise-grade protection against data breaches, and we'll talk about it a bit later. I lead the company vision and product strategy. I come from a technological background, cyber background, web data, and data-driven applications. So enough about me. Just a few titles that I guess everyone hears on a daily basis about this company being breached, that company being breached, staggering 800% rise in infostealer credentials theft, and ransomware. We hear it on a daily basis. You hear it, you read about it. Even the biggest companies that have the best processes and protection get breached on a daily basis. Um, okay. Okay, people are asking questions. So, by the way, if you have any question, if you want me to stop and answer questions, please do ask Leo. Feel free to stop me, and I can answer questions. So, some boring statistics, but our important statistics is that 65% of cyber incidents begin with identity-based attacks. So, people doing phishing and stolen credentials, session hijacking. So, this is kind of the major and most prominent vector of attack. People gain access, not necessarily by utilizing a sophisticated zero-day, but by gaining access. And they can gain access using multiple methods. I think the one that is gathering more popularity is the click fix one, basically trying to trick a person to install something. You go on a website, it says update, it says install Teams, install this and that, copy paste, and it will install a virus on your computer. We surveyed around 300 CISOs and security experts around the world, and we asked them about how they treat stolen credentials at their organization. So, of course, 85% of people say it's a well-known risk. It's the major source of attacks, and 62% is like on the top three security priorities. So it is something that I think you will ask every security expert, they will say, of course it is. That's one of the most important thing that we are aware of. The paradox is, and that really surprises us on a daily basis, that only 32% actually are doing something, a dedicated solution, a dedicated process to monitor. So there's a gap between the 85% and the 32% that actually are doing something about it. Something that is meaningful, that can protect them, and that can actually make a difference. 70%, 17% have no tooling or process at all. So they are completely exposed. Um, and among those, 60% are checking for credentials. They know it's important, but don't have the resources, so they're doing it manually. They're doing it monthly basis, rarely, weekly. They set an alert and they feel like they're doing something about it. We call it a checkbox solution. So I asked Lior, I don't know if we can do it now or it was before. I'm curious about the team here, how, if they're monitoring for data breaches, if so, how. So I don't know if you have results now. We can write and get results as we continue. So it's something that you can do now.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I've launched the poll, guys. If you please answer the question, like how do you monitor for data breach today in your organization?
That would be interesting. So the idea is, yeah, either we don't, and many don't, or you either have it in pawn is very popular, especially in the United States. We have an MSSP, someone else is taking care of it for us, or we have the integration into our SOAR and we have an automation in place. That's the top of the line solutions. That's kind of rare, unfortunately, but hopefully we have some people that are doing that today.
Okay, interesting. Most are they just don't run. Very interesting.
Okay. All right.
The
Okay.
majority
Hopefully.
won't do.
Okay, so hopefully after this lecture, you guys will at least use Lunar. It's free, it's easy to use, and it will cover you to an extent, at least the community version. Okay, let's see if I can move on to the next slide. Next slide. No? Yes? Okay, here we go. So there's the industry is full of solutions. There are, I think, over 20 solutions out there, and we divide them into two. A checkbox solution. If some would say, yes, we do have a bin pond or dehashed, these solutions are fine, I guess. We'll talk about it in a second. And there's the mature solution, the Lunar, Spy Cloud, Hudson Rock, Kela, Socrator, Flare. By the way, three of this list are of Israeli companies. It's us, Hudson Rock, and Kela. So good for us. These are the mature solutions. So there are these are types of, and I'll speak about what's the differentiation between the two. So checkbox solutions, they're focused on data breaches instead of info stealers. What's the differentiation? Data breaches are well known, usually third-party data breaches. You signed up into a solution, a dating site, or LinkedIn, Facebook, or whatever, and they got breached. And your username and credentials from that site got breached. Usually, if you're using new passwords, it shouldn't really matter, and many times you replace the passwords. So the criticality is much, much, much lower than info stealers, which I'll get into in a second. However, it is important because in many cases on those websites, there are other metadata about you, your security questions. Like, when you have a security question, who's your best friend? What's your dog's pet name? And it can be used to retrieve information from other website that ask the same question. So it doesn't matter. InfoStealer are live infections of your employee's computer, which means even if you change password, if you change or reset, it will keep on transmitting this information to the dark web. So just to double check on that. InfoStealer comes, it's a virus that sits on your computer. It, in many cases, bypass EDR antiviruses. So in many, many cases, the user does not know, the admin does not know it runs on their computer. It will take everything on your computer from your credentials, your Bitcoin wallet, and of course, a session cookie. It will periodically take this information and upload it in dark web where hackers trade this information. So it's live information. Even if you change, it will keep on unless you remove the virus being leaked and can be used against you and will be probably used against you. Another feature of a checkbox solution is ULPs. ULPs is acronym for URL, login, and password. These are based on InfoStealer logs, but they removed all the forensic information, just kept the URL and login password so hackers can use to log in. In many cases, MFA exists, so it doesn't really matter. We'll talk about it in a second about MFA as an excuse. And high latency, stale data sources, no automation, no integration, but it is there because it's easy, it's cheap, it's free sometimes, and sometimes people use it as a checkbox. Okay. Um, So when I personally spoke with lead with clients and asked them how do they explain the gap? How come they did not have a tool until that moment? So I got multiple answers or excuses, I would say. One is we have MFA. We have an EDR on all of our employee computers. And so I have two answers about that. A, as I mentioned, EDRs in many cases do not detect info stealers, and I'm going to touch that in a second. But also, and Leo knows that example, I always say that on a Friday dinner, when you get an alert that something is wrong with your servers, and you don't have your computer on you, and you go to your parents' computer and log into the admin of whatever, your parents' computer, I don't know, but my parents' computer at least is infested with viruses. So if an employee goes in on an unsecured computer which does not have an EDR in place, and they log in into a sensitive application, this information will be logged and will be transmitted and can be abused. So the fact that there's no EDR in many cases doesn't really matter. In many cases, just employees are not safe and are having unprotected sex, I would say. MFA. As I mentioned before, MFA is very important. However, if you have info stealer on your computer, it will steal your session cookie. Session cookie goes after you enter your username and password and add your two-step verification code. It's the key that is being used to communicate with the server. Once you have it, you don't need, the hacker do not need the username and password and the two-step verification. It has the key already. It can log in directly into the application. So MFA does not help when you have an info stealer on your computer. Okay, too many false positives make it useless. And the reason for that is that in many cases, hackers are repackaging old breaches. They're repackaging all info stealers. They're making up info stealers just to try and sell it on the dark web to make money and do run scams. So what can be done about it? Two things. A, if you're using a mature solution, we collect this information from premium sources. We do not, or they do not, use combo lists, repackaged breaches. So the amount of repackaged false positives will drop drastically. But the second thing is leverage automations. And with automation, I'll give you just one example. Since you have forensic information on an info stealer, you can see that in this screenshot we have a mock domain, but we have the password itself. So if you have on, hopefully you do on your company, a password policy of minimum 10 characters with uppercase, lowercase, and a digit, you can say, hey, if the breach or the password of the breach does not meet the password policy, then it's probably false positive. Don't send me an alert. If you have something about the computer name or IP, you can also know if it's false positive or not. So with automation, you can decrease the amount of false positives and get only real breaches that you can treat and run your playbook. What else? Okay, so one interesting one I got is that our industry isn't regulated, so it's not mandatory. It's basically saying we don't have to, so we're not doing it. So the thing is that it's always interesting when you buy insurance. Do you always think about the risk and the damage that could be done? So according to IBM cost of data breach in 2025, the average cost of data breach is $4.4 million. And that only includes usually the forensic, the legal, notifying the clients, getting the cybersecurity expert to find and mitigate the incident. It does not include the reputation damage, the legal consequences that can happen following the event, or in many cases, a much higher damages that sometimes can cause a company to go bankrupt completely. And another point is that we looked at the about 4.17 billion credentials from InfoSteel logs and Combo and Marketplace breaches in 2025, and we saw that many of the info stealers are evading, as I mentioned before, enterprise monitoring. So the fact that you don't know about it does not mean it does not exist. And I think the last but not least is arrogant Mac users. Mac is safer than Windows. It is true, by the way. I'm not arguing against it, but in the past year and a half, there were we start to see new type of info stealers dedicated to you guys for the Mac users. Odyssey, MacSync, you guys pay more. It's a known fact that Mac users can pay more, have more money. So hackers started targeting Mac OS users. So Mac is secure in general, but there are infostores that are tailored to the Mac OS operating system. So how does a typical infostore look like? Attack look like? So a target is infected. It could be your son downloading a shadow plugin to a game. It could be a click fix campaign. You download an extension to Chrome, whatever. Or just your day on a website that you visited, installed something you are not aware of, and it starts stealing information from your computer. These credentials are being sent to the dark web for sales. So it could be that hackers are specifically targeting specific type of companies, and they will pay more for Microsoft. They will pay more for RDPs for information that for applications that with high risk. But in many cases, just whatever we find, we try to abuse. Why? Because we will put a ransomware. Why? Because we will do lateral movement across the organization to gain more access. So credentials are bundled, sold. By the way, could either be sold or also could be being transmitted into free open Telegram channels as a way to promote the premium channel, and attacker access the enterprise network and do either if they reach a valuable application, great. If not, they will try to do lateral movement and gain access to other computers, other users, and continue from there to access and create either a bigger breach, and in many cases, we saw a bigger data breaches that resulted in an info stealer attack or simple ransomware attack. Okay, so a summary of the paradox. The paradox is everyone here, I think, heard about data breaches. They know where it started, how it started. They are aware of the vector about the importance. And the paradox is the fact that this information exists out there. It's not internal. You don't see it on your firewall. You don't see it on your network. It's external. And there's a gap here. You need to detect it outside in order to protect your inside. Um, Team are suffering from signal to noise problem, and they have problems prioritizing, as with everything in cyber. But in order to close the gap, they need to continuously monitor these exposures by using enriched and high fidelity, high forensic information and integration. I didn't mention, but the real advanced solutions have the 360 solution. So I mentioned before, you have the credentials, you have the cookie, you have the password. So what happens is that you take that and integrate it into your Okta or your Google Manager, Entra, whatever identity management system you have. It checks against the credentials they received from the dark web. If it's valid, it will automatically freeze the account. So you have companies like us collecting this intelligence on the dark web. We are on the darkest place on the dark web, listening to what hackers are selling, and we will let you know. And once it's valid, you can automatically shut it down before they do the damage. So, of course, the earliest signals is always the cheapest to act on. So what is needed, as I mentioned, is continuous visibility into exposures, context, automation integration, so it won't need any manual work because it's cheaper to act early. And just ending my presentation, anyone can use our system. It is free. I think it's the only free solution out there with this forensic level. You can just sign up and it's forever free. What we believe in is it's your data. And I don't think a company should charge for the data that they don't own. So we want to make sure companies are safe and bring back the data to their rightful owner and make sure the internet is a safer place. And don't worry about us. We will make money when it comes to professional use cases, when it comes to integration investigations, where companies are big enough and need integration into the source. That's where they pay us. But in order to see the data, it's free completely. You can go today and use it now to protect your company. So if you have any questions, if there were any questions, I'll be happy to answer.